He's addressed the class each morning to disseminate important information, to keep them in track of their studies, and to motivate and inspire them. He provides a key liaison role with myself and other SBI faculty. He has served this class and SBI well over the past 12 weeks. All of our class presidents are elected by their peers, and all of them quickly discovered the additional time and effort that their positions demand. President Anthony Pizzillo is the Deputy Chief of Police for the Fairburn, Georgia Police Department. Like his predecessors, Chief Pizzillo has risen to the occasion with distinction. I found him to be a thoughtful, compassionate, and inspiring leader to all. He, along with all of his 6 fellow class officers, have worked to ensure the success of each and every one of their colleagues in the 145th. Near the end of the class, I was asked by Chief Pizzillo whether anyone was struggling with their classes. He and the class officers wanted to make sure that everyone would get through and would be sitting with their classmates today. A truly personified and leave no one behind mentality, so important and emblematic of this noble profession. On behalf of all the members of the class, I'd like to ask President Anthony Pizzillo to come to the podium and share with us perspective from the 145th. President Pizzillo.
Good morning. I'd like to start by thanking a few people. First, I'd like to thank my Chief of Police, Chief Stoney Mathis, as well as the leadership of the City of Fairburn for their encouragement and support in sending me here to Southern Police Institute. Chief knew the value of the AOC and the investment he was making in me because he's a graduate of the program himself from the 118th AOC. Next, I want to thank all the faculty and staff here at SBI. To each of the professors, I'd like to say that your courses had an impact long after class ended. You wouldn't believe how many dinner conversations led back to your lectures. While I was on break, I was at home talking with my wife and kids about what I've been learning. My kids learned the word ski photo, and now I have a parent-teacher conference next week. My point is, the class participation did not end at 3:30. Hours later, we were talking about Graham v. Connor, police legitimacy, leadership, and of course, National Night Out. I gained a new tool for my toolbox from each professor. Your classes had an impact on me and all of my fellow graduates here today. Thank you all. Third, I want to thank each of my fellow 145th AOC graduates. When I wasn't learning something from our professors, I was learning something from all of you. There's over 600 years of law enforcement experience represented in this class. That is wisdom that can't be found in any textbook. My fellow students were instructors for me, but luckily I don't have to pay them. Thank you all for the education you've given me. Finally, and most importantly, I want to thank my amazing wife, Libby, back home in Georgia about halfway through 2020, in the middle of a global pandemic, with 4 children at home, 2 of them in diapers. I walked up to my wife and told her that I wanted to go to Kentucky for 3 months. You can imagine her excitement. She has shouldered a heavy burden while I've been away. Her grace and tolerance and understanding is unparalleled. Thank you, honey. Now, to say that it's been a long road to get here would be a bit of an understatement. 145 was met with some challenges from the outset. We had snow to deal with. Early on, we had in-person classes canceled and found ourselves doing virtual learning. 38 cops trying to video chat together. Now, I don't know if you're aware, but if you put a cop in a rubber room with a rubber hammer, the cop will find a way to break the hammer. So, once more, for old time's sake, please mute your microphone. I think the class really started to come together during the 3rd week of the course. That was Professor Ferguson's What Makes Me Me week. We were just starting to get comfortable with each other. Every member of the class got up and told us about their personal lives, their pasts, their families. It was a great week that really bonded us together as we learned about each other. What struck me during What Makes Me Me was how many people spoke about their families as the driving force, their crucible. We don't give enough credit to the people who really motivate us, who inspire us. Our families are the reason we are here today. Our families are the reason that we do what we do. Mothers, fathers, children, spouses. Once we really got into what makes us, us, we learned that almost all of us had common themes in our upbringings: honor, integrity, discipline, and love. These are not ideas that are introduced at the police academy. They're introduced at home. That week changed us from a group of strangers to a group of friends, and in some cases, accomplices. I have no doubt that friendships made here during these last few months will last for a lifetime. After that week, we had just a few more subjects to cover. The curriculum here at SPI was challenging. I can't compare it to anything else I've ever experienced. This was a history of policing in America. This was a state of the union of our current situation, and this was a roadmap to the future. Law enforcement faces many challenges today. We know that we have work to do with legitimacy, transparency, and accountability. We learned a lot about accountability over these last 3 months. I'm going to tell you a story about a police officer who was not held accountable. The police officer's name was John. He'd been a cop for about 4 years. Those 4 years were not great ones. John was brought before the review board multiple times over his short career. He used inappropriate language. He was caught drunk on duty. He was caught sleeping on duty. He was caught sleeping with women on duty. He never received more than a reprimand, and his department allowed him to keep working. In fact, the department assigned John to a specialty unit, probably just to stick him out of the way somewhere where he wouldn't cause any trouble. So he's assigned to a specialty unit. One night he was scheduled to be at work at 4 o'clock. He was 3 hours late and rolled in around 7. When John finally got to work, he went to his assigned area, but he didn't stay there very long. After about an hour, he left his assigned area so he could go do what he wanted to do. His assigned area was pretty important, though. Officer John Parker of the Metropolitan Police Force was assigned to guard the door outside of the theater box that was occupied by Abraham Lincoln. The date was April 14th, 1865. A police officer was not held accountable, and the history of the United States of America changed. We must learn from history. We must learn that the actions of a single police officer can affect the entire world. What we do matters. The decisions that we make, the actions that we take, the words that we speak are incredibly important as leaders in law enforcement. It's up to us to make sure every one of our officers understand that every single interaction we have with the public has world-changing potential. Our profession has its scars and bumps and bruises. There are chapters in our history that we are not proud of. Each of us in this room has known pain and suffering because of our chosen profession. The world is changing. Law enforcement is changing. I believe that law enforcement is still a noble profession. I believe that we are equipped with some of the bravest men and women that our nation has to offer. I believe that we as a profession are positioned at the edge of a growing chasm between us and some of our communities. The choice rests with us to choose whether we fall in or build a bridge. I believe that a police officer is a symbol of hope, courage, and bravery to some of our communities, yet simultaneously a symbol of fear for others. I believe the responsibility falls on each of us to bring these communities together one encounter at a time, to listen and hear while being heard and listened to. Law enforcement in America must find common ground with both our supporters and our detractors. The details are less important than the simple decision to sit down at the table together. I don't know much, but I know that polarization is not the answer. I believe that this generation of law enforcement, led by some of the men and women sitting in this room, will find our way through, that we will carry ourselves and our brothers and sisters into the next chapter of our story. This begs the question, how do we move forward? I believe that Abraham Lincoln's words are instructive. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds. I believe the better angels of our nature will guide us. I believe that my classmates will take the lessons we've learned here and take them home. I believe they're going to continue to challenge themselves through constant improvement. I believe they're going to make a difference in their communities and our profession. The men and women in this room are some of the finest professionals I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. I am truly honored to count myself among the members of this class, the 145th AOC. May God bless you. May He bless our extraordinary nation. And may He bless every one of those who chooses to wear a badge today. Thank you.